science. Temperatures in the 70s, speaking of science. For tomorrow morning, mostly cloudy, muggy. More scattered storms as we head into the evening. I'm going to be completely honest and transparent. I didn't change a thing on this forecast from last night. It's the exact same scenario setting up for tomorrow. Heat, humidity, and the remnants of that tropical system getting out of here, or subtropical system. We still do have some light rain showers and a few possible rumbles of thunder rolling along, especially from up around Ashtabula, Jefferson, down into areas coming into Andover right now. And then as you go farther south toward Cortland and Warren, and then eventually into the Youngstown area, these are just light showers. The heavy stuff is really fizzling as it moves northward. Sprinkles and very light showers stretching right down I-77 from Cleveland through Akron down into the Canton area. And we've had some heavier rain showers out to the west. A lot of the heaviest rain today has been right along the western border of Erie, Huron, and Richland counties. We've got another little swath of that rain that it will be coming your way. Maybe a couple rumbles of thunder, but for the most part, the heaviest chances of rain will be moving out. There's the leftovers, the remnants of that subtropical storm Alberto. Basically, think of it as kind of a wintry storm that formed in, I know it's not winter precipitation, but structurally wintry form that formed down in the tropics, and it's bringing just all that heat and humidity with it northward. So we're kind of sitting Florida type, swampy type feeling air right now. There's a disturbance in the northern lakes. We'll have to contend with that on Friday, and then there's a frontal boundary sitting out here to the west that will finally usher in some drier air. Look at the split in the dew point temperatures. Soupy, nasty humidity in the east, and then as soon as you get out to the Rockies and the west, no big surprise, it is dry. We will start to punch in some of this drier air, but we have dew points tonight that are in the 60s. Remember, anytime the dew point temperatures in the 50s, that's considered comfortable. 60s gets humid, 70s swamp, and we're close to 70 right now. These scattered rain showers are fading, and we'll have an isolated rain chance tomorrow morning. More likely than not, we'll just be dealing with some clouds and sun peaks. Midday temperatures, look at that, already scooting into the 80s. That'll help to pop up some more scattered showers and storms for the afternoon into the evening, but tomorrow is not a washout. Much like today, we just have those scattered rain chances. Universal Windows Direct 7-day forecast, mid and upper 80s tomorrow, still quite humid with the scattered storm chances. We'll continue those chances on Friday and then dry it out just in time to start the weekend. Late day Sunday, we could see some more rain. We'll be right back.